We have a game this weekend that is as big as any that will be played this year, and that is inclusive of the one between Alabama and LSU. It's Penn State and Ohio State with absolutely everything at stake in Columbus. A lot of questions will get answered. The playoff implications are overwhelming. Look at the All-State playoff predictor. Penn State would have a 59% chance to make the playoff with a win. That would be the third best of any team. Essentially, they would be in the driver's seat if they win. Ohio State, meanwhile, a virtual lock with a win compared to a 39% chance with a loss. So let me have Acho and Maria weigh in on this because you guys cover the sport for us. Maria, let's play a little game of if-then.
Let's do it.
I think we all understand if Ohio State wins, they're very much in the driver's seat, and Penn State is basically done. But what happens if Penn State goes into Columbus and wins Saturday? Then what?
I still think that Ohio State, with one loss, and if that one loss is to Penn State, they wouldn't play in a Big Ten championship game. They would still be one of the top 4 teams and going to a college football playoff, while Penn State would probably be paying in the Rose Bowl.
So let me make sure I'm clear. You believe that if, assuming they beat Michigan the following week, Ohio State still gets in?
I believe Ohio State can afford one loss.
What do you think?
I absolutely disagree. I think Ohio State can't afford it. If Ohio State loses to Penn State, Ohio State, like Maria said, doesn't go to the Big Ten championship game. But even bigger than that, Penn State likely plays Minnesota and can beat Minnesota in the Big Ten championship game. So track with me. Penn State can say we beat every team on our schedule. Their one loss this year is to Minnesota. You go to the Big Ten championship game, you beat Minnesota. You've now beat Ohio State. You beat Minnesota.
I hear you. I totally understand that. But here's what I'm going back to. The precedent has been set. When Alabama lost to Auburn, did not win the SEC West, and still made it to the college football playoff in 2017, they were the best team in the country. And they proved that by winning the national championship. You would be remiss if you left Ohio State out, which is probably the most balanced team that we have right now.
Very true.
Out of the conversation to play for a national championship.
But let me say that you don't necessarily you can both be right. They can put Ohio State and Penn State in if they want to. If Penn State beats Ohio State and wins the Big Ten championship, they get in, and you can still put Ohio State in.
That might be the Northwestern in you talking, Greeny, because I just don't see that it's feasible that you put 2 Big Ten teams in this year and a year of college football when there's so much parity.
Are you going to put 2 SEC teams in?
It's much more likely than you see 2 Big Ten teams.
Agreed, and that's part of the strength of record and the charts that you like to pull out.
I love my sheet.
Yeah, you love your sheet. Because a Georgia that's sitting at 15 with their strength of record or their strength of schedule, then they're going to get in over, say, a Penn State team that's having to play games against, say, Rutgers or Indiana and Nebraska compared to playing Auburn and Florida. And
here is my one fear. If you do what Maria's saying and you do follow that precedent that you set years back and you put Ohio State in, even if they lose, then the games don't matter. And you can't tell me the games matter. If Minnesota beats Ohio State in the final game of the season, or if Penn State beats Ohio State this coming Saturday, how can you still say, Ohio State, you have the trump card?
The bottom line of it is what we have established here. It is as big a game as there will be this season, right? I mean, this has absolutely
one and
everything.
The SEC championship, to me, are the 2 biggest games left on the
Well, so then let me ask you, let's do another one. Let's just do another if-then, because I'm enjoying this. We have Georgia, LSU right now sort of shaping up to play each other in the SEC championship game. Assuming that does take place, what happens if Georgia beats LSU in that game?
2 SEC teams make it to the college football playoff, LSU and Georgia being those 2 teams.
I think all hell breaks loose because, to Maria's point, 2 SEC teams will likely make it in. But then the problem is, get this, Greeny, Georgia plays A&M this weekend. What happens if Georgia loses, Maria, to A&M, which nobody is factoring in? I don't know why. And then, Greeny, a 2-loss Georgia team beats LSU. Then what? I just think that we're already assuming LSU gets in regardless because of what they've done. I don't know that it's that simple. Georgia's resume, LSU's resume rather, it does look really good. You've beat Alabama, you've beat Florida, you've beat Auburn, but there are some really good resumes out there. All hell breaks loose, though.
So, you know, the way the committee works is that the tiebreaker of a conference championship only applies when 2 teams are considered comparable. Now, if LSU is just head and shoulders better than Minnesota or whatever, then we're not going to use the conference title game to be a tiebreaker in that instance. And I think LSU would go in because the eye test would say that this team is better than a Minnesota that's a Big Ten.
And it feels like there's only one spot available, and maybe not even one, but a maximum of 1 spot available for the Big 12 and Pac-12 combined.
Correct.
Do you give a better chance to the Pac-12 champ or Oklahoma?
Pac-12 champ.
Pac-12 champ, no doubt about it.
Okay.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app, and for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.